Good evening, folks. Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Happy Sunday. The weekend review.
Ready, win.
Good evening, folks. Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, it's the weekend review. What's been going on here in the city of Yonkers? Let's talk about it. Good evening, folks. Happy Sunday. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Hope you've all been having a good time, right? Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. It's been a while since I've been on, right? Maybe Tuesday, and normally I go on a little more frequently, but it's the holidays, been hanging out with the family. Also, I want to say a shout out to my son, Ethan, who his birthday is today. So we've also been doing that, celebrating his birthday yesterday. He had a great time with his friends. They got to do a lot of fun things. And so today I was hanging out with him. So shout out to Ethan. Happy birthday to him. I want to go over first a few things. I'm going to talk about Sam Borrelli. I heard he was fired, hearing that earlier today, as well as the retirement of the fire chief, Tony Pagano, who's also now going to be retiring. So there are some administrative changes that are happening. Why is that going on? Let's talk about that. And also, really quick, in case some of you were concerned about the green water, that's what they do when they test for leaks. They dye the water to see where there may be leaks. So if they see green water coming out of other places, they know that Sawmill River is leaking. So not to worry about that. I know some people were concerned about that, but that's what that was about. But let's talk about, before I do it, I want to also mention C.J. Hackett. This week was the sentencing hearing, and he pretty much got a sweet deal, right? He's got a sweet deal. And from what I'm hearing, this is what I'm hearing. The Westchester County District Attorney told the family that the reason why Stephen Dolan was getting such a sweet deal was because if they went for, I guess, full punishment sentencing, or made it, I guess, a bigger deal or something when it comes to that the judge was going to discuss the fact that CJ Hackett may have been drinking that night. So in order to avoid that, they decided to give Stephen Dolan, the man who was driving drunk back in 2022, December, I believe, of 2022, when he struck and killed 16-year-old CJ Hackett. And many of you may remember this incident, and also the podcast where I discussed it with Anthony DiMangia. I also had CJ Hackett's best friend, who was there at the scene, who witnessed this. His family members, his dad was on the podcast. He called in. His aunt also was on the podcast, and we were discussing. It was a very strange incident in the fact that it took such a long time. I mean, I think it was, many of us would agree it was a while before he was caught, considering that the man was a city employee, and considering that there's so many cameras now located here in the city of Yonkers, although one of the reasons why they said they weren't able to locate him right away is because there weren't any cameras, which, that wasn't necessarily true, right? I don't want to say people are lying, but that wasn't necessarily true. And why would they suggest that? But anyway, here he is now being sentenced, and he took a life. I mean, he took a 16-year-old boy's life. That's permanent. That's forever. And he didn't do it accidentally. I don't think that that's an accident. You make a decision to drink as much as he drank and then get in a vehicle. You're now making the decision to be a reckless person, to be a threat to people in the community. you're using a vehicle, which we went over this couple podcasts ago with Anthony DiMaggio, which is a deadly instrument, right? And you recklessly, and that's reckless behavior. You may not have been driving crazy, may not have been speeding, but the behavior in and of itself was reckless. And then you kill a 16-year-old kid, take off, plot what your next move is going to be. Then you go to work like nothing ever happened the next day. You could just go to work after you just killed a kid. And that's where he was arrested. He was at work in City Hall. Stephen Dolan is well known in the community. His father and uncle were also Yonkers police detectives, all a part of the Emerald Society. In fact, his father marched in the parade, St. Patrick's Day parade with the Emerald Society, next to pretty much the detective that was investigating the incident. That was just crazy. I mean, how can you expect true justice to be served under those circumstances, right? And it's sad. It's just a sad situation. And again, this is not the first time that city employees have driven drunk. This seems to be an epidemic. And it's not really ever nipped in the bud, was nipped in the bud, and it's never ever really dealt with the way it should be. And so here you have it. It's like the 16-year-old boy who killed Detective Sergeant Frank Galdino driving recklessly. 16-year-old unlicensed driver kills a Yonkers police officer, part of the traffic unit. The irony of it, driving recklessly on Tuckahoe, you all know that, right? Another individual that's getting away with murder pretty much. But we saw this situation, and I talked about it on a podcast that happened in Queens, the exact same situation. A 16-year-old unlicensed driver in a BMW kills his passenger. Guess what? Not only is he charged criminally, but so are his parents. This happened in Queens. The Queens District Attorney doing their job. But here in Westchester, when you're dealing with the Westchester District Attorney, we don't see justice served equally, right? So Detective Sergeant Frank Galdino, given, the same justice for what happened to him as the 16-year-old CJ Hackett has received for what happened to him and his family. And it's a sad, sad story. And it's just, it's upsetting. I would be very pissed off. I don't know. It's disgusting. Yeah, good to see you too, Will. I saw Will at Target today. I've been seeing a lot of people. I saw someone else that's very well known in the Tuckahoe shop, right? Shout out to you. Someone did also recognize me when I was out with my son doing his birthday thing. They said I follow you. So shout out to that person. Thank you for following the podcast. Stephen Dolan faced sentencing today, almost a year and a half after he struck and killed 16-year-old CJ Hackett on McLean Avenue with his van after a night of heavy drinking. Judge James McCarty rendered a 1.5 to 4.5 year sentence for Dolan's confessed crime. On August 2nd, 2022, I'm sorry, it was August, I was saying December, Christopher C.J. Hackett lost his life in a tragic hit-and-run incident in Yonkers, right? And you know the story. So 1.5 years to 4.5 years. So let's say he gets to 1.5 years, and he's free to hug his family, to walk freely with his family, to go to the park with his family, to go shopping at Target with his family on Christmas. And that's something that the Hackett family will never get to experience again. How fair is that? Again, it's not like he was driving and his car just had a mind of its own and decided to go in a different direction, right? It's not like, the brakes failed. He failed to make a smart decision. He failed this entire community by deciding to drive drunk. And he killed a 16-year-old kid, and he gets 1.5 to 4.5 years. Like, that's not fair. There's no fairness in that. I'm sorry. And I know life's not fair, right? But it is what it is. Sam Borrelli, Sam, I don't really know what's going on here with the building department in the city of Yonkers, but Sam Borrelli, I hear, was fired. He is was the building department commissioner. Sam Borrelli is a person that I kind of have my little beef with because of my issues with the building department. You know, Sam Borrelli was the former deputy commissioner of DPW. He's been very involved politically for many years. I believe he even ran for mayor. He's involved in the Yonkers Democratic Party. He's a political operative, right? He's just someone they use to fill in the gaps, put in a position. And one of these positions was the building department commissioner after Vincent Pesci, the former commissioner, said, I'm not doing this stuff. I'm not going to, just sign off on all kinds of things. And so that didn't work out. But what's interesting is that they hired Vincent Pesci, who was an actual engineer. He was an engineer, right? Because they said that he was a good manager also, and that what the building department needed was proper management. The building department is a mess. If you've gone in there to look up a property, get the folder, and I'm not blaming the people that work there necessarily. Obviously, it starts at the top with management. It's a mess. You get your folder, and there's things that are missing there. And I don't know if that's intentional. Why have we not gotten a digital system already set up? I mean, New York City has had a digital system for years now. New York City is a lot bigger of a city. I mean, come on. Our elected officials are looking to get paid as much, if not more, than the officials in New York City. Yet they're not running this smaller city as efficiently. There should have been a digital system set up like NYC's DOB now, which allows you to go online and do what you need to do without ever stepping foot in the building department. But that's not how it works here in Yonkers. You must go to the building department with very limited parking as it is. You have to pay for it. But first, you must make an appointment. And you have to do that online and hope that they have an appointment that's not a week or so away. And then you have to go there and wait in your car until they call you to come up. And then when you do, you are taken to a back room where you then request the folder that you're looking for and pray and hope that what it is that you need is in there. And so some of you may be familiar with that, but it's a mess. And so Vincent Pesci was out. He didn't do much in terms of managing the place. They didn't really change much, but he did realize that that's not where he wanted to be, and he was not going to do some of the things he was expected of doing. So they needed to bring in someone who was even more, or who was a lackey. I don't want to say more. I don't want to disrespect Vincent Pesci, but someone who was a lackey who will do anything that is asked of him. And that's when they brought in Sam Borrelli. But Sam Borrelli was not an engineer. So how is he going to take the job which requires you to be an engineer? Sam Borrelli, what experience did he really have? Oh, he's a good manager. Once again, they were looking for a good manager, someone who can manage the building department. And being a licensed engineer was not important. And so one of the most intelligent council members to ever have graced the presence of the city of Yonkers residents at city council chambers, Mike Breen, introduced legislation to reduce the requirement of the building department commissioner so that they can get an unqualified person in there. That was Sam Borrelli, because after all, being a licensed engineer was not important. They needed someone to manage the place because, again, it's a mess. And so how did Sam do? How did he do? Didn't do much better, if better at all, than Vincent Pesci, because there were still, and there still exists, problems in the Yonkers building department. Yonkers considers nixing professional engineer requirement for housing and buildings leader. Others say it could cast a wider net for potential candidates. At issue is the question, does the leader of the city's Department of Housing and Buildings need to be a professional engineer? That question is up for debate with a proposed change to Yonkers legislation that would strike that requirement. After Commissioner Vincent Peachy unexpectedly resigned from the department late last month, Mayor Mike Spano appointed Sam Borrelli, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, to the role as the interim. But Borrelli is not a professional engineer. But don't worry, Mike Breen to the rescue. The councilman from District 5, Yonkers City Council Minority Leader, Mike Breen, said he started to draft the legislation to strike the requirement in July. Breen said the Corporation Council is finishing its review of the legislation around the time of Peachy's departure, and Borrelli's appointment was a coincidence. So it was total coincidence, he said. Yeah. Okay. Right. So Borrelli it is. But now he's gone. But again, Borrelli was a controversial guy. I'm telling you. Mount Vernon contractor on 8-year quest for payment on Yonkers project. Really quick, Mount Vernon contractor that has been trying to collect a debt for 8 years is trying again. Westchester Stucco Inc. sued Sam Borrelli Jr. of Yonkers for $60,059 March 22nd in the U.S. bankruptcy court, where Borrelli had filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy protection. Sam Borrelli and his son have this company. People say it's actually Sam Borrelli's company, in which Sam Borrelli, as the deputy commissioner of DPW, awarded the company a no-bid contract to do some repairs here in the city of Yonkers. For that, he was suspended for 2 weeks. So if he doesn't realize that he can't be doing things like that, and he was suspended for it, why would he be considered to run the building department? He should have never been there to begin with. He's not an engineer, not qualified. He's not the best decision maker. Many women have had issues with him, including the city council majority leader, Tasha Diaz, right? She accused him of, talking disrespectfully to women.
But I'm a councilwoman, so I know you have a lot of women that work in your office. And I was also told that you favor some over others. I'm hoping that this is not true, Sammy.
So she's talking to Sam Borrelli in a live meeting there, shaming him for how he treats women. My wife can attest to it. She was, a firsthand witness of that treatment. In fact, he brought her to tears. She had to leave the meeting that she was having with our architect when we were going through our whole debacle with them over our daycare on Lockwood. And so some of the women, which I thank very much, came out and, were there, gave her some tissues, which is why I brought them a flower that I paid $30 for because I wanted to be nice. And they got rid of it because they thought I had a bug in it. That's a true story. But I hope that they know I didn't have a bug in it and that I was trying to be nice. So Sam Borrelli should never been there to begin with. I'm glad they're getting rid of him. Was he fired or was he, forced to retire or whatever? I don't know. I'm hearing that he was fired, but it is true. He's not going to be there anymore, and they will be looking for someone else. But he's not the only one that's gone or going to be going. Also, I'm hearing Anthony Pagano, also called Tony Pagano. He is one time was the or maybe still is the president of the fire union, the Yonkers Fire Union, but it's also the Yonkers firefighter chief, the top firefighter here in the city of Yonkers. I'm hearing that he was told either you retire or you get fired. And I'm sure he chose to, I know, Will. I'm sure he chose to retire. And he's going to retire lovely. I mean, these pensions in Yonkers are outrageous, right? And many times it pays to retire. You actually make more money. In Yonkers, they have this system in which city employees, specifically firemen, police officers, and maybe even DPW guys, can rack up a lot of hours, overtime hours, the last 3 years because they use that to calculate their pension. So they average out the last 3-year pay and they pay that to the person when they retire. So many times, or all the time probably, police officers, and I'm not knocking them, I'm just telling the people of Yonkers who may not know what happens. They will get a lot of overtime hours. They will be put in certain positions that receive a lot of overtime hours, like the traffic department, where they do a lot of Con Edison stuff. So they're there banging out Con Edison work, right? Just racking up those overtime hours so that their last 3 years can average out close to $200,000 a year. So when they retire, they're making $200,000 a year when the average person in the city of Yonkers, according to the mayor, makes $35,000 a year. How fair is that? That costs the city a lot of money. One of the biggest expenses the city has every year is the city pension. Paying people who are no longer employed by the city of Yonkers, who are not producing anything for the city of Yonkers, yet their pensions are fat. And hey, don't blame them. They're just taking advantage of something that they did not create. You can't knock them for it. They're going to do it. It's available. I'm going to do it. And so a lot of guys retire with these fat pensions. So between the city salaries and the pension payout, that is a huge chunk of the budget that the city receives every year, which is why the city's crying broke all the time, right? That's about 60%, if not more, of the city's budget going to salaries and pension. Yet our city council members feel that they deserve a raise. And so they asked for raises, and they got them. Yonkers lawmakers approved raises for council members and the mayor, but the city's carrying a deficit of $3 billion. And remember, there are a lot of bonds that were issued that are going to come to maturity, meaning that the people who bought these bonds are coming to collect. So we're going to have to pay that at some point as well. But yet people still get raises. City council voting on raises for themselves as high as 46%. But it's not because of the job that they've done. You know, like the normal people who get raises based on their performance. They feel that they deserve these raises because of the cost of living is going up, and so they want to keep up with the cost of living. And because the council members and other elected officials, the mayor, have not received raises in I don't know how long, they deserve to get 32 to 46% raises. Council members are part-time jobs. Yet they want raises and they approve these raises. But the city can't really afford it. The city has a lot of expenses it needs to take care of, like our Yonkers public schools that are dilapidated, that are falling apart. And sure, they have made small, corrections or repairs here and there. But the reality is many of them just need to be knocked down and rebuilt. And they've known this for at least 12 plus years. I mean, there's a whole report on the conditions of the buildings. Many of them are missing things like working fire systems. The issue that the building department gave me such a problem about, or I should in the state as well, because I needed this now elaborate fire systems. Well, our schools don't have proper working fire systems. They're not shutting them down. HVAC systems, asbestos, mold, roofs that are falling apart, leaks, walls, ceilings. Where are we going to get the money for that? Especially when we continue to give city employees, council members raises. We allow individuals to fatten their pensions the last 3 years. Where are we going to get the money for that? You also see these developers getting tax incentives. They're bringing in more renters, not property owners who are going to pay property taxes. But they're still utilizing all of the resources here in the city of Yonkers. So that's going to create a problem down the road, right? It's kicking the can down the road, folks. So they voted on these raises for them. And I want to know, did Tasha Diaz need a raise for these designer boots? So I posted this on Tasha Diaz. These boots that she got on, I noticed them. Well, I see them here for $1,400. How many people wear gold jewelry like this, 2-finger rings, designer clothes, yet they're crying broke? You don't get paid a raise because the cost of living is going up and you want to keep up with the Joneses, you want to keep up with the Kardashians, how many vacations does Shanae Williams go on? If you need more money because the cost of living is going up, Shanae, then maybe you need to get a second job. I mean, you seem to have enough time going on vacations all the time. Doesn't seem like you guys are hurting, because there are people that are. There are more and more people becoming homeless. People are having to find new places to live because their rents are going up. They can't find anywhere affordable to live here in Yonkers anymore. They're definitely not buying homes with the housing costs going up so much, yet they deserve a raise. But how about their performance? Much of the reason why the cost of living, or at least the cost of housing, is going up here in the city of Yonkers is because of the decisions our council members are making. When you're changing the zoning laws to allow these luxury developers to come in and build these market rate luxury developments and build studios all over Yonkers, what do you think is going to happen to the cost of living? Did you consider the people that live here that are making an average of $35,000 a year? Did you consider the average household income here in the city of Yonkers being slightly over $60,000 a year? And many of these luxury developments require you to make $150,000 a year to qualify for the apartment. Did you think about that? Now, if the city of Yonkers had a surplus, people were finding jobs, housing was affordable, congestion was not the way it is, our infrastructure was in better shape, our roads weren't so, in much need of repair like Sawmill and other roads, then I can say, yeah, they deserve a raise. They did a great job. Look at how the city is. Crime is down. Homelessness is non-existent. But that's not the case. The city hasn't improved. The only people that think the city improved are the people that are not living on the West Side or not from the West Side, who believe that the building of studios and luxury apartments has improved the West Side, and they're doing a great job because of this. Well, in fact, if you grew up there, you would know that that place has gotten worse. Crime, the drugs, homelessness. I used to walk through Getty Square with my grandmother as a boy. It didn't look like that. We weren't scared to walk through Getty Square. We didn't have people coming up to us asking us for change or people slumped over high. So it's gotten worse. The cost of living has gone up. People are complaining. They can't find affordable places to live. Parking is horrible down there, and it's only getting worse. And the city is carrying a $3 billion deficit. We're having to issue more bonds to do repairs to these water meters, bonds to pay out lawsuits from the 70s. Yet they deserve a raise. That's what they feel. And so they voted on raises for themselves. Shanae Williams, your district has been developed crazy, and people have been protesting many developments. You haven't done anything for them. It's been pushing a lot of people out, specifically Black folks in northwest side of Yonkers. People have been forced to sell their homes, their businesses, because the movie studios want them. Daycare centers on Woodworth have to be closed because of developments going up. And yet you guys feel you deserve a raise. But you're so out of touch because you're too busy in Jamaica or in Thailand or in Puerto Rico somewhere, living it up while people in Yonkers continue to struggle. It just doesn't make sense. They do not deserve raises. I'm sorry to tell you, it's a part-time job. And if you are struggling with the cost of living like many people in Yonkers and in America are, then you need to get a second job and not spend your money on so many vacations or designer boots. You should not try to, adjust or subsidize your cost of living, your lifestyle with taxpayer money. It's not how it works. And so that needs to be talked about. They don't deserve these raises, right? And It's just unfortunate. We don't get that, we don't get that benefit of being able to go into work and just vote yourself a raise. Right. So people of Yonkers should be very upset at this. So I want to move on, folks. I mean, what are you guys doing? There's a lot of fires happening here in the city of Yonkers. I want to talk about that. Early morning fire destroys local Orthodox church. Many people probably know about this already. This happened over there on Lockwood. The actual address is 20 Buckingham Road. That's not too far from where my old center, daycare center, was located. Now, this is a church that belongs to the St. George Orthodox Church community. However, I do mention Dr. Amir Rabadi, who's also involved with this church. He's one of the church leaders, and he's the one that's most well known. So he's, part of this church. They had a building in the back of the behind the chapel. So it wasn't the chapel, the small church there that's actually on Lockwood, but a bigger building that's behind that just went up in smoke, went up in flames, 3 a.m, and destroying the place completely. This is something we're seeing a lot here in Yonkers. I've noticed this. I mentioned this. I said, why are we seeing so many more fires? I'm someone that's paid attention to fires in Westchester County specifically, as that's what I deal with, fire restoration, stuff like that. So I'm kind of aware of the amount of fires. I've always said that Yonkers didn't have as many fires as other places like Mount Vernon, which is smaller. The Bronx has a lot of fires. But lately, we've been seeing a lot of fires. And I don't know if that has anything to do with developments. Right? Could just be total coincidence. But very recently, we see this fire here. And so people have been reaching out to me about it, just, talking about the fires in general. And I've also received information, certain information from sources. Apparently, this could have been an arson. This fire on Buckingham, 20 Buckingham, the church that went up in smoke, may have been the work of arsonists. 2, in fact. 2 arsonists, according to sources, can be seen in a video that, according to sources, is in the custody of police. Police have this video showing 2 individuals on the 2nd floor in the early morning hours, apparently setting the place on fire. Are there some serial arsonists going around the city of Yonkers? Again, there's been a lot of fires here in the city of Yonkers. I've also dealt with one. I had a client who had a fire sometime last year, well, actually the beginning of the year, on Palisade Avenue. That was a suspicious fire, which is still being investigated. It's right over there by where they're going to be doing the developments in Chicken Island. What about the McDonald's fire? The McDonald's that was next to the St. John's Church in Getty Square. What about the fires on Maple Avenue or Maple Street? 4 buildings went up there. I'm hearing something was funny about that. And they're actually going to be doing some development there in that entire corner. So the 4 buildings leading up to a corner that has a big open lot completely destroyed. Right? Just mention it. But anyway, according to sources, fire department and police are being told to stand down. Why? Are they going to release any video showing 2 individuals? I mean, it's important. If we have people going around burning buildings for whatever reason, they need to be caught. But this is what reliable sources are telling me, that there is video of 2 individuals seen on the 2nd floor in the early morning hours and appear to be setting this place on fire intentionally. And that fire department here in the city of Yonkers and police are being told to stand down. I can tell when I drove by it that they were definitely doing some, more than usual investigation there, the way they had it roped off. Again, I've dealt with many fires. I've worked with retired fire marshals who are now fire investigators, and they work on behalf of the insurance companies to determine the causes of fires whenever they occur. And, I'm being also told that these guys are known as Origin and Cause. That's the title they have, and they're contracted out by insurance companies to go and investigate. And I'm hearing that they were not allowed in to the building to do their investigation. I'm not sure if that's changed from the time that I was told about this, but I thought it was, if that is the case, and they were told that they couldn't go in, they probably did that, under the, the reason that it could be dangerous, it could be collapsing. However, I did see that it was boarded up, so they did allow people to go in there, and that's part of what services that we provide. We go in, we board up windows, secure the properties. You don't want people going inside the property to try to steal stuff, or kids. We used to do that when we were young, going to burn houses. They can get injured, so you're required to board it up. So they allow people to go in to board it up. Usually, if there is a danger of the building or the integrity of the building and it could be collapsed, no one would be allowed in. They just rope it all off and not allow anybody in there, but they did. So I don't know how true that is. I'm hearing again that the insurance company investigators were not allowed in. Firemen are being told to stand down, keep quiet. And why is that? I mean, maybe it's because there's an investigation going on. They don't want people to know in case, they're looking into certain individuals. They don't want to give them, any, warnings that they're looking into them. I'm not sure, but this is what I'm hearing from reliable sources. Again, that the fire on Buckingham may have been the work of two arsonists. There's video that police have showing these individuals, again, according to reliable sources. So wanted just to mention that. They're also having an event to raise money. I shared that flyer. It was sent to me, and I was asked to post it up. So if you want to support in helping rebuild the St. George Orthodox Church or that building or whatever that they're doing there, check out the flyer on the page. It's $150 to attend this event, and again, it's to raise money. But again, more importantly, though, if there is arsonists out there, if this is the work of arsonists, then we definitely need to know about this. Police definitely, and the fire investigators, fire marshals definitely need to look into it. Hopefully that, no one is being asked to stand down for whatever reason, I'm just saying, but this is what I'm hearing from reliable sources. Again, there's video of two individuals on the second floor, which is where the fire started. You can see the roof completely gone. And those fires are very bad when it starts on the top, because if the fire doesn't, damage things, the water that's sprayed onto the top of the property coming down does a lot of damage right there. And so a lot of, a demo would need to be done there. If not, the place needs to be completely knocked down, which is probably what's going to happen. It's most likely to be knocked down. But again, sources are telling me, reliable sources, that there happens to be video showing two individuals inside, setting the place on fire. Right. Some people question the furniture that was outside of the place, and they ask, how did that furniture get outside? Did people run inside? Was it already out there? I don't know if it was already out there. It doesn't look like, I doubt that anyone went inside at 3 a.m, start pulling furniture out. Sometimes you may see firemen, tossing furniture out of the window to, clear it out and stuff to, make room. But usually that furniture, you can tell it was in the fire. It's damaged, it's burnt, has debris on it, or has residue on it, soot on it. But this furniture didn't seem to be damaged or have any, debris or dirt or water stains or anything on it. So I don't know if it was taken out the day before, the night before, or, because some people say that they knew it was going to happen. They pulled out the furniture real quick, but I don't know. I'm not saying that's what happened. But again, reliable sources telling me that, firemen and police are being asked to stand down after they found a video showing two individuals inside the building, apparently setting it on fire on purpose. Again, I don't know. I'm working on getting more information on that. Check out my main man, 50 grand, Mike Kizader. Before I get up out of here, Mike Cater came to City Hall the day that they voted on the raises for themselves and spoke against it, right? He specifically addressed City Council President Lakeisha Collins-Bellamy, who defeated Mike Cater in the 2021 Democratic primaries after Mike Cater was attacked viciously. He had mailers, there were mailers sent out saying negative things about him. His wife was receiving phone calls and text messages. So were his neighbors about affairs and all kinds of things. I mean, it got very ugly. He even was then investigated and has been under this investigation by the Yonkers Inspector General over quid pro quo allegations after a letter was written by the council members, his colleagues at the time, to go ahead and investigate him, which bothers me because they didn't do the same thing to Tasha Diaz when she tried to award her campaign manager, Frank Jarris, a no-bid city contract. That should have been investigated. And I know for a fact, and I can prove it when the time comes, not on Basement Politics, that people knew about it and that she knew about it. Tasha, I got it. You knew about this, Tasha. You knew what you were doing. Why were you not investigated? But they investigated my man, 50 grand, Mike Cater. And that pissed off the Caters. That pissed off especially his bro, Johnny Cater, John Limo, owner of Top Class Limousine, who then was all hell bent on going after the man responsible for the attacks on Mike Cater, his own blood cousin, Zahi Jarris, this man right here. But after 2 years, Mike being very quiet, being low, acknowledging that this man right here had defeated him, Mike Cater is back out speaking. And he's looking to make a run against Lakeisha Collins Bellamy. But this time around, he has blood cousin Zahi Jarris on his side, in his corner. So in the past 2 years, they made up. They're relatives, after all, they're cousins. Blood is thicker than water. And so they're going to make up. And that's exactly what they did. And so now we're going to see Mike Cater going against Lakeisha Collins Bellamy in the 2025 Democratic primaries, with Zahi Jarris behind him and Lakeisha with the other people behind her, whoever's going to be behind her. And I think that Zahi Jarris, who has done things like put out negative articles on Lakeisha very recently in regards to an individual who was caught sleeping on the job. They accused the man of being Lakeisha Collins Bellamy's nephew, which he was not. He was not related to Lakeisha Collins Bellamy at all. He had already been fired by the time that article came out. So that was done because Zahi Jarris and his team were upset that Lakeisha Collins Bellamy abstained from voting on Christopher Jalaj, the son of real estate investor Louis Jalaj, who was appointed to the zoning board. Young guy. Many people question what his qualifications were. Why was he being, appointed there? He was replacing his brother, who was on there, right? They're neighbors of Zahi Jarris. And so Zahi Jarris wanted that appointment to happen. And even though it happened, Lakeisha Collins Bellamy abstained from the vote, meaning she decided not to vote because there was some conflict of interest. That's why you would abstain from voting. There's some conflict of interest. So what was the conflict of interest? Or was it that Lakeisha Collins Bellamy knew that that was something she was not wanting to be a part of? That pissed off Mr. Zahi Jarris, who then had his Yonkers Newswire, which I can also prove that he and his son Frank Jarris are responsible for, that put out this article with a picture of a former DPW employee asleep with a neck pillow, and they claimed it was Lakeisha Collins Bellamy's nephew, but it wasn't. The man had already been fired before that article came out. So they had taken this picture and were holding on to it for a moment like this. And that's when they used it. Now, I wonder who took the picture. Was it Zahi Jarris's wife, Seda Jarris, who is that or was that man's supervisor? She was the supervisor. Did she take the picture? Someone who was employed there took the picture because only an employee could have taken it. Seda Jarris is a supervisor over at the water department, DPW. Another individual who honestly is just unqualified, initially didn't pass the civil service test to become this supervisor, making $130,000 a year, but her husband is Zahi Jarris, a man who controls 1/3 of the Yonkers City Council. The man that's suing me for $1 million for informing you of his activities within Yonkers politics. He, along with Tasha Diaz, the majority leader, is Zahi Jarris Sandy Anabi 2.0. When will an investigation happen? Many of us are sitting here waiting. FBI? I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same guy. different politician, Tasha Diaz, but the same position, majority leader. She also flip-flopped, same as Sandy Anabi, on a vote in which she was supporting until she wasn't. And now you see her living the life, designer boots, 2-finger rings, jewelry, and she's attached to the hip of Zahi Jeris. She is the person, at least on the council, that has been giving me the most problems. Chair of the Education Committee tried to award another no-bid contract to the nephew of her big main supporter, Lorraine Lopez, for bulletproof windows. That should have also been investigated, but it wasn't. Zahi Jeris runs the Yonkers City Council. And if you want to become president, you have to get him behind you. And that's exactly what Mike Cater has done. That's his cousin, and he wants his position back by any means necessary. But can we trust Mike Cater in this position if he has Zahi Jeris in his corner? Mike Cater talked about integrity and ethics. But anyone who does business with Zahi Jeris in politics specifically shows that they lack ethics and integrity, as well as good decision making. And Mr. Cater, we want complete opposite of what we've seen in our city council. Not the same. And our concern is that you may be willing to do what needs to be done in order to win in the campaign. This time around, you may have learned your lesson, and so what Zahi says goes, and that's a problem. And that's a problem. At one point, the Caters were Zahi Jeris's number one enemy, putting out information on Mr. Zahi Jeris that at times many people did not know. But again, they're family, so they're making up. Mike Cater is embarrassed by the loss and wants his position back. But this may not be the way to go about it, Mike. Got to think about this. Think long and hard. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Folks, happy holidays. Again, I'm not going to be coming on as much because of the holidays. Got to spend time with the family, enjoy my life. Things that we have gone through, actually, I like to find a silver lining in things. And, I believe that, everything happens for a reason. And, there have been a lot of, positive things that have come from things that we've gone through. And initially you look at them as something that's a negative and you just like, why is this happening? Well, I knew why it's happening, but then you realize why. You see the silver lining. You understand why God puts you through this test, because it's not them that's doing this to us. It's God putting us through a test. I believe that. We're being challenged to look within ourselves, see what changes we can make, and changes that need to be made that we may not have made before because we were in a space where things were always great. But things are not as great this time, but doesn't mean that we won't be back to where we were, but we will be back much better, having learned certain lessons, and I'm happy to be, where I'm at in life. And so to those who wish me bad and hope to see Freddie destroyed, it's not going to happen. It's not, trust me. But we're definitely, changing up the strategy, moving a little bit differently, and watching who we trust. That's for sure. So shout out to all the people that support Basement Politics Unfiltered. Please continue to give me the tips. politicwithfred@gmail.com. Again, politicwithfred@gmail.com. Make sure you get involved, stay informed, support the podcast, share the information, share the podcast, become engaged. It's very important, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a beautiful night. Have a happy holidays and be blessed. Be well, because all that matters is your life, your loved ones, and spending quality time with them. Some people value money too much, but you realize that's not the most important thing in this world. And if you define yourself by your money, then you don't have a lot to really, show for yourself, right? Money comes and goes, and when you've made money, you learn to make it easy.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
But you realize that money's not most important. Your family is. So make sure you spend quality time with your loved ones this holiday. And enjoy. I'm Freddie Bassett. Have a beautiful night. Yonkers, I love you. Take care. Will, you're right. Listen, I don't know. That goes to show, Will, that they just wanted us out, right? They will work. Look, they have pressure by the city, Will. Sam Borrelli, that's why I'm, listen, I don't care. I hope you got fired. I hope they just letting you go, but they may give you some job somewhere. But, you're, POS, Sam, and I'm always going to say that. And I'll say it to your face if you want, you know what I'm saying? But I don't really want to cause any real problems like that or be seen as an aggressive person. But as a human being, you're not a good human being. Okay. A lot of you are not good human beings. And that's why I have the attitude I have with you. And he's one of those people. And you can tell that that's what it was all about, Will, just getting us out. Why would you not want to have tenants in there who are going to be, paying you a rent? I mean, right? Doesn't make sense. Why would you not allow your tenant to become fully operational so they can continue paying you your rent, right? It didn't make sense. And now you just have a space that's empty. And we were going to pay to put the fire system in your property, saving you money and making your property more appealing. Didn't make sense, right? And I don't own commercial real estate, but a lot of people that I know that own commercial real estate said doesn't make sense. I would never do that, right? If I know you got a business and those that is, you're doing your thing, you're going to be making money, whatever, I would work with you. Especially if you're going to be a good tenant, a long tenant, right? Why just have my space now empty? So they, it was a lot of pressure that was coming from, the city, people like Zahi Jarris, Tasha Diaz, all those little, POSs, that are going to end up in jail. I'm just saying, that's what it was about. Like sports, by your fourth term, people know you and you have a harder time pulling your scams. Tasha Diaz, what goes up must come down. Keep playing that role that you're playing. Okay, you're not some big boss. You're not. Keep thinking you're protected. All right, people are watching you. People are seeing what you do. I see you, walking around with your developers, shopping real estate, deals throughout the city, throughout your district. How much money they put in your pocket? FBI. When are you going to come around and take Tasha Diaz? She's doing the exact same thing as, that whole issue with Sandy and Nabi, Ridge Hill, Sandy and Nabi 2.0.
So thank you. In another one, and I don't vote for the person that lied to me. Thank you very much.
By the way, is Rubo getting permits for that stage he's building in his business? He's going to be having a live performance stage and all that. It's going to be the first in the downtown area. Did he get a permit for that? Is there any? And by the way, with all these fires and maybe if it wasn't arson, I don't know. Listen, listen, I'm not saying anybody's, I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just saying that I've dealt with, I've seen it. I know. I said something's funny money about that, but whatever. But if it was because of the contractors, like they saying, and the work that they were doing that sparked the fire at 3 a.m, where they were doing work at 3 a.m, what was it that sparked the fire? But if it was the contractor, did they have permits? Where was the building department at? And what's up with those businesses that have these, health inspections from the county that are horrible? And not only are they talking about the, quality of the food and the cleanliness and all that, Sam, but they were also talking about the shoddy construction work that was done, things not being appropriately done. Ceilings, walls, in despair, Sam, yet and still they got their fucking C of O. Good for you. Is coming back to you all. I can guarantee you that. Tasha, I'm waiting for the day I see you in pinstripes, not designer clothes. Have a blessed holiday, Tashi.